Hi, I'm Nick Pawson. You're watching News 24 Live. I'm joined in studio by Harry Phillips from Health 24 to give us the latest stats and facts on the Ebola outbreak. Harry, welcome back.
Hi, Nick.
We had Professor Clive Gray in studio recently from UCT who gave us some very encouraging news on immunology and vaccinations. Are you here to give us more doom and gloom?
A little bit. Yeah, it's been a shady week for Ebola. There was some good news last week in that for the first time in months we've had some empty hospital beds in Liberia, which is one of the worst hit countries as we know. But then that turned into a sort of a sadder story when they realized that what had happened is people were now actually so scared of Monrovia, the capital of Liberia, that they'd actually just sort of migrated out into the countryside. So now there's still people dying of Ebola, it's just that no one knows about it because they're not in the cities. And that is going to be a serious problem if that turns into more spread. I mean, if people are just leaving the cities and going into the jungles and the villages, that could seriously increase the speed of the spread. So that is quite worrying. And then deaths were now almost over 6,000, so it's another grim milestone. But the rate doesn't seem to be increasing too much faster, so there is that bit of good news for now.
Okay. Speaking about Liberia, I saw an article on BBC website how the job loss, sort of 1 in every 2 workers who were working at the start of the outbreak have now lost their jobs. Obviously, a lot have been told to stay away from work, but a lot of markets have closed, and the economic impact of that, I saw a figure expected to in the region is expected to hit between $3 and $4 billion.
Yeah, that's $3 or $4 billion in countries. 3 of the poorest countries in the world.
Yeah.
So that's going to make a huge hole in their economy and set them back even further for years to come. And then you've got questions like the infrastructure. I mean, the actual country is falling apart. The roads are beginning to sort of stop working. Sewerage is not working. And then you've got sort of the legacy issues. Orphans. There's going to be an explosion of orphans in the next couple of years in these countries because so many parents and single parents and parents have died. This is the sort of the darker side of the disease, is that even when a vaccine's been produced and a cure's been found, the negative effects are going to be felt for years, if not decades.
No, sure. Now, Harry, in terms of the containment or spread, is it still predominantly those 3 West African countries? What other cases can you tell us about?
Yeah, so those 3 countries are still the vast majority of the cases. We've got a couple of other small developments. There was another doctor who went to the US, and he died, I think, a day after he arrived there, but that was well contained, so that's not too much of an issue. And then we had a guy who went to India. He flew to New Delhi, and that's a serious issue because that is one of the most densely populated cities on Earth. Fortunately, they caught him at the airport. He had actually survived Ebola, but they tested him and he was still positive for it. So if he had got out, his bodily fluids still contained the virus. So they've isolated him in New Delhi, and that's caused a serious problem before it actually happened. That could have been a nightmare. The only real worry at the moment is Mali. Mali has now had 5 deaths. Another one is pretty critical. And Mali is another very poor country, and it's a very big rural country. And there's a worry that cases there could spread quite quickly without anyone really knowing. So that's one to watch, but hopefully they'll keep that down.
So just to add on what Prof. Gray was telling us last week, and in terms of treatment and a cure, I mean, he thinks, if this thing is rolled out properly, within 12 months Ebola will be gone. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, that's pretty true. Once they get this vaccine together, get it out there, they can seriously knock this thing back and hopefully get rid of it altogether. The problem now really is from the treatment point of view. People have already got the disease. The WHO conducted a review recently, and they tested 120 different treatments ranging from all kinds of things, herbs, vaccines, whatever, and they found that none of them worked, which was pretty depressing, but it's not really anything we didn't know. Bill Gates has just pledged 60 million rand to whoever can find to help find a cure. Hopefully that'll make some kind of impact. And then there's talk of a new test which could be quite helpful, which will be able to detect Ebola in minutes instead of the days it takes at the moment. So they can actually conduct that at the airport to see if you've got Ebola and stop the spread. And then one last point was actually they've made a slight breakthrough in a very simple way, which is drinking. They figured out that if an Ebola patient drinks 4 litres of water a day, they will substantially increase their chances of survival. The problem is that the last thing they want to do is drink, because they're racked by intense nausea. So it's sort of the tragedy of the illness is that one of the simplest ways to save yourself, you can't do it.
What about going on a drip or sort of?
You can't get the same enough volume through a drip. You need literally 4 litres of water. So it's actually rehydration solution, not just water. You need those salts to keep your tissues. And that's where the organ failure comes from. Your body just doesn't have enough blood essentially to go around.